Okay, so welcome to our rescheduled Ol Lida Meri workshop. Today we're going to be continuing a little bit more of our thinking around our tribe, and then I guess more specifically focusing in on what cultures we like to create with our tribe and how we can use the culture of our tribe to leverage change or to leverage improvement. Okay. And my acknowledgement is a little bit different today because I'm actually in Port Moresby in quarantine. So I know typically we don't do acknowledgement the same in PNG, but I'm going to do this anyway. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which I am meeting you today, which is the Motu and Kaukau people from National Capital District. And I'd like to pay pay respect to elders past, present, and the leaders emerging from all of our communities here in PNG. And of course, extend that welcome to Emmeline, who is in Melbourne today. So thanks, Em. Everyone else is in PNG. Who thought that would happen? I'm so excited. Anyway, so today, as I mentioned, we're going to start to look into our culture and what does it mean to have, and I'm going to differentiate from our traditional culture to the cultures we create in our organizations that set the expectations for how we behave together, what we value, and how we work together. Okay. So everybody knows how your camera and microphone works. We are now into, of course, the 4th of 5 workshops, and we're hoping to be able to extend these a little bit. But we just need to, of course, make some decisions about my schedule the next 3.5 months, which is what Medi Jr. and I have been doing today. So some of that design work that you can see as that 5th workshop, some of that might continue when I'm working with you face to face as opposed to these check-in points. But we'll touch on that a little bit later. So I have Pauline, Medi, and myself sharing with you today. Medi's going to do a little bit of work around the culture kaukau in a moment. But to start with, when I start talking about culture, we talk about how our tribe can shape the culture and leverage improvement. Okay, and so when we start to look into this, and Medi will unpack this in a little bit, is we start to think about what are the things that everybody can see and acknowledge. What are the visible things in our culture that we can say, yep, this is how things are done. We know they're done that way because it's on a policy or the government's telling us, or in our school, it's visible. We'll start to look at also what are the things that sit just below the surface. Okay, we can't always see them, but we know that they're there. And then there's some really deep ingrained things in our culture that we'll also look at today. So to do our session, of course, your laptop, which I know that you all have in front of you, a notebook and pen is helpful. And if we had a bigger group, I would say headphones, but we've got a small group today, so we can just be working with our laptops.
I will take us through the next few slides. So Anna has been sharing with us culture. Papua New Guinea is a tribal place. We all come from different tribes and cultures and clans and communities. So if you look at culture has a lot of bearing on how we act and how we relate to each other. So looking at, if you look at the kaukau culture, and my take on how the kaukau culture depicts what goes on also in the organizations or institutions that we work from, you can look at it from a kaukau, feel like, perspective. So we look at culture in terms of what we are able to see. We all are aware of and we understand how kaukau is cultivated in our own communities. You see the leaf of the kaukau on the top, and you see the mound that is hiding the actual kaukau crop inside. So if you look at how culture is defined, what you see on the top, like the kaukau leaf, is the visible culture, what you are able to see, or what we are able to see. Beneath the surface of that kaukau are the tubers, the root that gives food to the actual kaukau that at the end is able to be harvested and eaten and shared. So kaukau exemplifies the way, or the different layers of a culture, if you like. The visible culture, what we are able to see, the artifacts, the language, the music that we are able to hear, and all those things are things on the surface, but beneath that is the invisible culture, which is made up of our belief systems, our values, and the customs that we have. But beneath that invisible culture is the deeper culture, or the underlying assumptions, if you like. When you are able to dismount or dig the mount of the kaukau to find the kaukau underneath, you unleash or you uncover the deeper things that are beneath what you're able to see. Those are the very things sometimes the challenges for us as women, because they have been ingrained and they have been deepened over the years, over centuries, and they are the things that hold us back sometimes, if you like. But they are also the things that we can realize and unpack and uncover, so that we can move up to the surface to see and realize our full potentials as women, contributing equally to the society that we represent and the communities that we live in. So that's how I look at the culture kaukau and how it is with our PNG culture. So this next slide here is just reiterating what I've gone through in the first slide. So the visible culture is the way we say we get things done. If you like, the organization that you have is represented by the kaukau mount. If you look at it, what you're able to see on the surface of the organization, the vision, the strategy, the vision is out there in front. Like when you step back and look at the kaukau mount there, it's something that you can see from afar, but it's giving you that vision and that direction that you want to go and reach, if you like. So the vision, the strategy, and the goals, how do you get there? You set yourself goals. The structures are the things that make up this organization, and how the structure functions together with the different elements make it made up by the policies and the procedures on how to reach that vision, that goal out in front. So what do equity for women and girls, what do people say and document? PNG, our culture is an oral culture. Most of our histories, our customs have been passed down to us by word of mouth over the years. But we have moved from that into a written culture today, the modern culture that we live. But those have been influenced by the oral culture that we have. So what are these things that we document, that we record, both oral and written, in terms of what gives us our identity, the vision to which we are striving to achieve as women leaders? So I think there is an activity there for this slide is to insert your ideas in text box and shapes on what you say. What do your people say or document as equity for women and girls? The visible culture, what is it that people have documented about the visible culture? What you can see, as I've shared with you, the leaf of the kaukau, what you're able to see. What can you say about that?
That's great. I might just add one thing, Medi. I know that not everyone's logged into the document, so just take notes and have a conversation with the person next to you if you've got someone next to you. But just jot down, just in dot points, you know, as far as the idea of equity for women and girls, what do people say in document? You know that in your tribal culture, there might be some things that are, you know, everyone says and they might not document it. But as Medi said, that's the narrative. That's the, you know, what we know about equity for women and girls. And that might look different depending on whether you're from a patrilineal or a matrilineal society. Also think about in your schools or if you're a provincial education leader, what do people say and document at that level? Do you say that girls and women have equal opportunities? Are there policies in place to support girls and women? What are the policies or procedures or structures or goals? What are the things that we see? Okay, so I'll just give you 5 minutes to have a quick chat with the person next to you and just jot down a couple of ideas that you have about what you see or what is documented. Thanks so much, Medi.
Okay, so this next slide is what does it mean for women and girls in terms of what people think in the community, in the institution that you work in? What do people value? The things that they hold dear to them in the institutions, in the communities that you live within. What are these values? And what action do people take in terms of trying to have a environment, an institution where there is equity for women and girls? The values, the thoughts, and the actions that people around you, people within your institutions, people that you work with value, think about, and do in order to encourage an equitable working environment, institution, and a community. So again, give some thoughts on those 3 things there: the thoughts, the values, and the actions that people take to encourage equity for women and girls.
That's awesome. Thanks, Medi. And I'll just add that when we start to work in that invisible culture space, we start to really tap into beliefs and perceptions and shared assumptions. And sometimes that stuff above the surface, the stuff like the policies that Medi mentioned, some of them are saying all the right things, but when we come just below the surface, we know that the beliefs and assumptions are actually not aligned to what the policy is saying or aligned to what the public perception of something is that's going on. Okay, so what you might find when you do this activity is that, you know, when we're doing above, sorry, let me go back a slide just so that you can reference it. So when we're looking at that visible culture, it's like the stuff that we're saying, this is how we get things done. We see our leaders stand up and go, this is what we're doing in terms of equity for women and girls. This is what it looks like. But sometimes when we come to just underneath the surface, the way they actually get things done is sometimes slightly different. Okay, so yeah, as Medi said, what are those thoughts, values, actions, the beliefs? What are those unwritten rules around equity for girls and women? And there might not be. So this is where you can just put down your thoughts. Thanks. Again,
If I
I'll
can
go
just add to Anna there. If you look at the kaukau, I'm going to go back to the kaukau, make it visible, like you see the skin of the kaukau outside, but when you actually cut it open, you may see a very colorful red color on the outside. But when you cut it open, you see these worms inside, or it's green inside, or it's already over matured. These are things that you may find that exemplify what is within, the invisible things that you can't see until you unpack it, you cut it open, you cut the kaukau open, and you find out that it is really not as what you were seeing from the outside. There's something else inside. So these are the things that we are referring to here, the invisible culture, the thoughts, the values, and the actions.
Like we talk a lot about gender equity in the media and publicly, but privately, what do we do? That's the question, because I still see a lot yet to be done. We still need more people to be educated about such issues, because there's not enough action that I see. Okay, so what is actually going on underneath, behind closed doors? We still do not have enough safe house for women, and we still do not have enough female dormitories built, and we are putting it on just black and white, and that is just what I see. That beneath the surface, and we are still struggling. Women are still struggling. We still need to have our voice heard. And what do we do underneath? What do we do in this invisible culture? That's the concern. Okay, maybe it's gonna take time for the kaukau to disintegrate underneath and maybe bear better fruits, given time. That's just one point that I'd like to add as well. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Pauline. It's really valuable.
Okay, so the last slide here is the deeper or the deep culture. We've looked at the surface, beneath the surface, and now deeper into what's underneath is the way we assume things will be done, our traditions, our stories, our feelings, our emotions, and the historical patterns that we have built up over centuries, the unspoken norms that we have come to accept as normal because of just the way we have been socialized in our culture. But is there a way that we can get out of this deeper culture? We look back at the kaukau, it's the roots that actually hold the kaukau right down to the bottom. That's the deeper culture. Now, how do we uproot that root out so that it's freer, the kaukau is freer? So that is what the deep culture is referring to here.
Okay, and I might add to that. That's a great analogy, Medi. With your deep culture, and I love that analogy with the kaukau about being that really deep root, you know, and that emerges out of, you know, histories. It's not always about like moving the roots. It's about understanding where those roots come from and how we respect what we've got and align it to where we hope to go as well. Because sometimes we have, you know, we talked about bias and assumption when we first started talking about this space with women, but we all make assumptions about how things will be done based on our biases and based on our lived experience in the world. So there'll be certain things that we just assume. Okay, I assume that, well, there's different assumptions that I have about myself that are based on the way that I was brought up or based on the people that I grew up with. Okay, so and everybody will have these. And sometimes if we don't stop and acknowledge and deeply understand why we think the way that we do, it's difficult to challenge our own assumptions. So I guess the example we're pulling forward here is when we're thinking about equity and creating opportunities for girls, we need to think about where they've come from. And if they assume that they are worthless, if they've been told that they are number two to boys, if their culture and everyone around them tells them that, of course they're going to believe that. Of course that will be normal for them. Okay? And then it will always mean that automatically they will put other people ahead of them all the time. Okay? Rather than reaching for their own goals, or even us reaching for our own goals and aspiring to, do something greater with our time, or, invest in things that we are inspired by. Okay? So when I'll give you again, probably only 3 minutes on this. This starts to get a little bit tough, but think about what are those really deep cultural aspects that you think in terms of equity for women and girls are really rooting, maybe not your assumptions, maybe the assumptions, general assumptions of Papua New Guinean women's experience, okay, or even cultural experience. We know some of them are really obvious, but again, 2 or 3 minutes to jot down a couple of your ideas and then we'll move on. Meri, did you have anything else to add, or Pauline, anything else to add that might be more relevant?
Thank you, Anna. I was just thinking back to something that I wrote when we had our first the 2019 PAPC team, and that was behind every PNG woman is a beautiful culture. And our culture is sometimes misinterpreted, and sometimes we see us women as really inferior to men. But actually, if we really look at our traditional culture, it's centered around the fact that women are different from men in the way we are, our physical differences. And that where our culture, we have different tradition, surrounding the fact that gender, we are different. So in every culture in PNG, there will come a point where women are valued. And that is really true. Like coming back to my own culture as an Eastern Highlander, there is a point where female are really valued, and that is the time during the wedding ceremony. When the males actually carry the female, they put the female on the shoulder and they carry to the groom. And that's how they value the female as something that is valuable. And that's the time that they actually carry the female. And during that time, you will feel like a queen, I tell you, or a princess. And that's one thing that I really love about my culture, and I value that I am a female and not a male. So I just want to share that experience in that manner. So at least share some light to some of us who are thinking what deep culture is all about. So long as we understand it, this is something beautiful. And yes, like I said, behind every PNG woman is a beautiful culture. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Pauline. I love that analogy. And yeah, like I said, mentioned earlier, it's not about changing the root of where you come from. It's just, as Pauline said, like seeing what's there and acknowledging it and embracing it, and not assuming that that's just what it is. understanding how all of those layers work together and just growing your awareness around it. I love that analogy, Pauline. I'm going to use it and repeat it. Thank you. So we might actually move on. So we have spent a little bit of time today. Mehdi, I might get you to summarize in just a second, but we've kind of gone through that deep culture, that invisible culture. And I guess it's around really understanding what do people say and document, that top layer. What do people think, value, and do? And then what are those assumptions that are never critiqued? Normally when we start to work in organizations, we want to see that the visible culture is somewhat aligned to the invisible culture, okay? Because it's like trying to have a correlation between the things that we're actioning, our strategies, the things that we're openly, visibly, publicly saying and documenting to what we actually believe, okay? Because what happens is if there is no alignment between them, you can't get movement on the things that we say are visible, okay? Because it means that if underneath the surface, people actually don't believe in the stuff that's being said, they won't create any improvement around it, okay? And so this analogy works across not just around equity, we're talking about women and equity today. However, it also works around how you do school improvement. It works around how you lead system strategy, and it works around how you lead any improvement agenda forward, okay? Because what we want to know is that if we are building an open strategy with our visions, goals, policies, and we're saying this is where we're headed, that underneath the surface, everybody's values are aligned to that improvement, or else it will not create movement. It will not create traction, okay? And our workshop last week, we talked about the continuum of change. And if we want to leverage change or leverage improvement, the greatest lever for improvement is to look into your culture and to leverage your culture. So I'm going to kind of leave this activity with the thought that if you are trying to create change or improvement in your school, whether it be around equity, whether it be about improvement in STEM, whether it be about, your child protection, e-safety policies, any of those improvement areas that I know that all your schools are working on, you need to start to think about, if you're creating a policy around child protection, for example, what do people actually believe about this? Because if they believe what the policy says is not real or incorrect, or it's different, they'll actually go about child protection different to what is on the policy. Okay, so that's just one example. Mehdi, did you have any closing thoughts on the culture kaukau, or even Pauline, before we move on?
I think Anna, you have summed that up, but just reiterating what Anna has said, culture is not a bad thing. It's a great thing. It's an asset to everyone. And it's good to identify what makes that culture up from the top layer to the invisible and to the deeper culture, in order for us to appreciate what makes us up as members of this culture, so that we are better able to equip us with that understanding from where we have come from, and how we can reach that vision that we have set for us, so that what is out there, as Anna has said, is connected or aligned to what makes us down there, or our root. Identifying what our root is and working with what holds us deeper down there to strengthen what's up there, so that we can leverage us to move forward into making our status, or improving what we intend to improve on, and also strengthening what we already have within us and around us, to move forward to making positive changes in our communities.
Thanks, Meri. Did anyone else have any thoughts or contributions or insights just about the culture kaukau? It's open floor. Anyone would like?
Okay, thank you. Very happy with the analogy you have given. My thoughts on that is that, as said, culture is very good, and it's the way we think and behave, all shaped by our culture. And yes, culture can do good to its people, or it can destroy its people. And that's why culture is important, and it has to be built on a positive note. Because when we relate that to how women are being treated in the society today, it's the culture that has made people to assume that women are inferior, and they will always be inferior and cannot do the things that men can do. So it goes back to our culture, and there's a lot of work, as you said, we need to do to change the mindset of our people to think that we'll have to work hard to make people realize that women, like the leaves of the kaukau, they have more within them to offer to the society. They can help to develop with their male counterparts to develop our country or society as a whole. Unless our culture is changed and we all have the mindset that women are important, then both genders can work together and we can see a lot of change in our society. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth, and really powerful contributions. Thank you. Meri, did you have your hand up?
Thank you. Anna has something to share, so Anna will talk.
Okay, just like Pauline had said, maybe let me go back to our traditional culture, especially in the islands. I see women as a backbone, or in such a way that a man can lead, but without a woman, their leadership qualities is not identified among the people. It's not noticed among the people, because when it comes to contribution and this, it's the woman. They look back to the woman, and then the woman provides the pig, or when it comes to compensation, the food and these things, it is because there is a woman. So invisibly, the woman is a leader at the back, but the man comes out and they speak out. But at the back of them, there are women there who supports them. And then we come back to the school culture. Because a lot of men still use that type of culture in the school setting, but as they see when the task and responsibility are given, they find that it is the woman who makes the most of it, the best of those responsibilities that are given. We do something and we make sure we work. And sometimes they try out with us to lead, and we definitely do a good job. So sometimes they come back to us for advices, our principals and our leaders. So I think in that way, this, although it is our values now are starting to come up, and people are now valuing us. And I think we have come out of the way when it's about our students. We have, like, for their roles to lead, we have co-presidents. So we don't have a president who is a male, but we have a student president who is, one is a male and one is a female. So we call it a co-presidents for the male and female. So I think we are now seeing the values of women in the society. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Anna. And I love that. I think across all cultures in the world, women are the invisible leaders. Sometimes they're very visible, but I think you can look across the world and see that women are the backbone, like you said. It's true, and I can see that here too as well. But the really great contributions. Thank you. Did anybody else have anything before we move on, or all good? That's fantastic. Okay, well, we'll keep moving, but thank you for your, your deep thinking and your honesty and your reflections. It's really, I love this. I love being able to connect with women. It's great. So this next little session, we're not going to go into too much detail because we obviously don't have too much time left today. I'm going to try and finish on time at 4:30. But this next section is around why does organisational culture matter? So with our kaukau, we've kind of spoken a little bit about, our heritage or our lineage and, in the context of women and equity, and maybe some of that overflows into our schools or into our provincial roles. But why does it matter in an organisation? Okay, so when we start talking about organisational culture, it has a direct correlation to performance. Okay, so when we're trying to create improvement in our schools, we can't do it unless we inspect the culture of our schools and be building healthy cultures in our organisations. Okay, what we do know though is that unhealthy cultures actually lead to underperformance. Okay, so we know that we want our teachers to be working as best they can. We want our students to be impacted by our teachers as best they can. We want our leaders to feel supported to make the right choices. And this all depends on the culture in your schools or in your organizations or maybe in your greater department. Okay, so we always say with culture, it's about how you feel when you're at work. Okay, that's the first indicator. So if you are going to work and you feel unsafe, you can't make decisions, if things are not feeling great for you overall, and that's the case for lots of people in your school or in your organization, I would start to ask, well, why is that? Okay, what is it in the culture that's making people feel that they're, not feeling great at work? Okay, that's the first and easiest indicator. So the key thing here is that if we want to build and shape cultures, we can do this through our mindset, our beliefs, and our behaviors as leaders. Okay, it sounds simple, but it's not. It's quite complex, as you know. But the key part to take away from this today is that everyone is a leader. And we've spoken about this previously in some of the work that we've done as part of our partnership, is to be carrying that leadership mindset, because it actually impacts the way that we behave as leaders. It impacts the way our beliefs and mindset impact the culture that the cultures that we create in our schools. Okay. So I'm going to talk about 3 different lenses of leadership really quickly. And I did share some of this in Leading Learning in our online course last year. So you may have seen some of this before. I know Pauline has and Medi has. So the first one is positional leadership. Okay, so when I'm talking about positional leadership, this is the leadership of others in a hierarchical or an organizational structure, where somebody closer to the top of the hierarchy would have more power, responsibility, authority. Everybody has positional leadership. It just depends on how much power, responsibility, or authority you have in the structure. Okay, so the higher up the structure you are, the more accountability, responsibility, and authority you should have, or different roles of positional leadership. Okay, so for you today, I'm going to ask you to, on your page, and I'm going to give you less time for this, 3 minutes, draw. What does your organization look like to you, and where do you sit in your positional leadership? Okay. You can draw it however you want. Some people draw trees, some people draw diagrams, some people draw mud maps. 100% up to you. I'll give you 3 minutes. Draw on your page. Okay, that's your 3 minutes up. So now I'm actually curious to see everyone's. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen for a second because I think we need to all hold these up. So can you guys see mine? Show me yours. Mine looks like this because I kind of work across different projects. So I have like different teams that I work with. And so you know, in my structure, it's a little bit different. It's not as hierarchical, but I do work in lots of different hierarchies. They're just depending on which project I work in. Who else have we got? Show us yours, Mary. I can see you holding it. Oh, that's cool. I can see your structure. Fantastic. Unmute. So tell us a little bit about it.
Ours is like a layer of cake, starting with the principal and then the 2 deputies. Yeah. And then we have the SDHs for the different departments. We have 5 departments. Yeah. And then we come down to the next layer is the senior subject masters, 5 of them. And then the last layer is made up of all the subject masters, the base level. So it's we thought of it like a layer of cake.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you put the principal at the top. Does that make them the icing?
Yeah, kind of.
I hope they're sweet. I hope they're sweet.
It's a pyramid shape, more like a pyramid shape. It may not look so on the diagram here, but it's an hierarchical structure. The principal at the top, followed by the 2 the deputy, and then the 3 SSMs. Next down the line would be the SMs and the teachers. So it's more like in a pyramid shape from the top.
Yeah.
Small.
Fantastic.
From the base is wide.
Thank you. And where are you in there? Have you identified where you sit?
You asking me? Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm at the top. I'm the teacher of the institution. Yeah.
Fantastic. So you are the icing, Elizabeth. You're the sweet one. Okay, let's do maybe one more. What did you have, Doreen? Would you like to share?
Okay, that's the teacher. The teacher.
A little bit higher. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, the head teacher is at the top, the PT, and then the 3 SSMs, the TICs, and then the TICs. I'm one of the TIC, and then the the SM, the subject master. Yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you. So we all kind of have like different layers, different ways that we're representing how we see our positional leadership. I'm going to share my screen again now. Okay. So the second type of leadership I'll talk about is personal leadership. So this is, the leadership of self, leading a positive impact and influence all around. This might look like how someone, authentically holds their team together, how they generate enthusiasm in others, and they, this is where you see people's behaviors. So maybe integrity and how they respect everybody around them. Okay, so think about your own leadership now, because personal leadership is definitely a personal choice. Okay, and I'm not saying we're all perfect, because I get it wrong all the time. We all get it wrong all the time. But write down, and again, we're going to cut it short. 2 minutes. What are the things that you do, or how do you act when you are at your best? Okay, think about what does it look like when I am at my best? Okay, 2 minutes. Okay, Elizabeth.
Thank you. When I'm at my best, I have a sense of satisfaction within me, feel satisfied, and also I get encouraged in situations that I am in, and I'm happy about myself. I get encouragement for myself as a leader, and also I feel empowered too by what I do and the positive response I get from those around me. So yeah, when I'm at my best, that's how I feel. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that, Elizabeth. I'm going to follow up with the second question, if you could keep sharing. So when you're at your best, what's the impact on the people around you?
Okay, I seen positive response coming from people that I lead, And I lead as a teacher. Students and teachers, respond positively to what I want, and to ensure that we achieve the goals and the vision of the school. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. That's awesome. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share? How do you act, or what does it look like or feel like when you're at your best? Everyone's a bit shy on this one. Elizabeth was courageous. Who else is courageous here? Nis, I can see you raised your hand.
Hello, Anna. How do I act when I'm at my best? Like, I have this satisfaction when I see, like, when I see positive response from those people that are in the group, and that makes me do more of what I'm doing, and yes, more at my best.
Yeah.
It just kind of like encourages me to do more. And when I'm at my best, I see that those people I am with, there is good interaction with me and them, and we work like cooperatively, or we just work cooperate. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks, Nis. And I love that you said that it makes you want to do more. I'm going to introduce us to a tool called SBI. Pauline knows this one. It's a feedback tool that we might do next week or the week after. We'll see how we go. But it's a tool that we use to reinforce behavior. And as a personal leader, you nailed it in saying that, when you are validated, when somebody reinforces your behavior, you do it more. Okay? So if we think about how we're engaging with our leaders in our schools, when they're doing things or behaving in a way at their best, when we're reinforcing them, it does encourage them to do those really positive behaviors more. It encourages them and inspires them to be leading as a personal leader. Okay? And the catch here is that if that's a positional leader, for example, your principal or your provincial education officers or advisors, if you see them, doing their best and they're just doing a great job, reinforce it, because what we want them to do is to be leading that way more. Okay? Because the more they're leading at their best and influencing decisions from whatever position they're leading from, it means that they're building positive cultures. And what do we know about positive cultures? Is that's how we work together cohesively to leverage change. Okay? So thank you for your contributions on that one. The very final part of this, I guess where I talk about the three lenses of leadership, is when we bring our positional leadership together with our personal leadership, we can start to really be building respectful leadership cultures. Okay, so leading those positional responsibilities through personal leadership to positively impact and influence and inspire others. So I can hear that both, in what Chitranes said and also Elizabeth, in that, people are inspired. You feel positive about yourself as well. Okay, so I'm going to keep moving through here. The key thing that you will always hear me reiterate as I go through and, as I come to your provinces when we start to do some work around leadership, is that having respectful leadership, it grows trust, and trust grows positive cultures. Okay? So if you want people to, be feeling good about their work and how they're working with each other, you need to have respect, to then grow trust, to then grow positive cultures. Okay, so I'm going to stop the workshop there because there's one more activity, but we're not going to get to it today. Just let me actually pan through to the end. Okay. So what I'm going to finish with today is from the stuff that we have spoken about. So the two things around culture, the culture kaukau that Meri did an absolutely brilliant job unpacking with us today and really contextualizing it, and also those leaderships. What ideas either connected with you? Were there any ideas that extended your thinking, or anything that you found was challenging for you, that you thought, this doesn't sit well with me? Okay, I'm going to give you maybe a minute to think about it, and then I'm going to open the floor just to share back if anybody would like to share back.
Just the challenge there, especially when we're talking about our the kaukau culture, and I see that there's a lot of challenges when dealing with what is the hidden part of our culture, where we really don't share, like the part you mentioned that we need to find any documentation. Well, we have like policies and all this as what we can actually see, but the one that is deep rooted, that is when, Papua New Guineans, we are sort of, it's passed through oral, true stories, and there is not enough documentation with our culture, especially those parts that emphasize the positive part of our culture, especially to do with women. And maybe as an extent, this is a challenge for maybe any of us to take up, to if we can have something published, or maybe like a story for kids to read, especially for young girls. We have our students and our own children too. If there is enough maybe stories published, or in that sense, especially the part that emphasize on the positive part of culture relating to women, I think that would be a good thing. So that's what I am from this discussion. I'm just thinking about that. Yes, thank you, Anna.
That's awesome. I love that idea. I think we could do that idea, right? Like,
Yeah, not better.
I think that's so possible. Thank you. Elizabeth.
Okay, this statement here, connect, extend, and challenge. I like this statement, and so what I'm going to, the comments I'm going to make now will be in line with this statement: connect, extend, and challenge. And this will go with the two types of leadership that you have pointed out this afternoon: personal leadership and positional leadership. And this is from my experience. I would like to share. Personal leadership is, I feel that this is very true. If you're a leader yourself, within yourself, then and when you're given a position, it will show out. You will display the qualities that you have in you as a leader in any institution that you work under. And in our situation as teachers, we have institutions like schools, and yes, building a positive culture or healthy culture in a school is very important, because when we as leaders, we as role models in building positive cultures, our teachers and students alike will see us as role models in building the culture we want in a school, so that in the end, the organizational goals, vision, and all that can be achieved. But without a culture, a school without a culture will never achieve the organizational goals and objectives. And this session has made me connect well with what you have presented. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. I love what you I love that that's like those things connected well. I think all of us can really think about I mean, because we know there's certain ways that we lead at different times that are advantageous, but we all sit in a positional hierarchy regardless of whether it's in our organizations or in our community or in our families. So it's really lovely to hear everyone's insights. Did anybody else have any final thoughts or insights before we close our session today? All good?
Anna, can I just say something? Of all the discussions that we have had this afternoon, one pick from me for this afternoon is the benefit of having affirmation, whether individually or as teams. I think it has a lot of positive vibes, both physically and mentally, in the person that you are affirming, whether it's your immediate leader or a school leader. It does a lot of great things to make that person feel that what they are doing is great. It makes them to aspire to do even greater things when they are at that level of doing great things. I personally feel that when that happens, because just gives you that extra fuel and energy to continue doing the great things that you are already doing. So I think the challenge that we as individuals and people in our institutions tend to make is diverting and focus so much on the negative side rather than bringing out and affirming the goodness that we find in the people that we work with. I think that is a lot, and it will impact a lot in the institutions that we work with if we change and our mindset to think and create that positivity around us so that we can encourage that growth and that trust amongst the people that we work in, so that we can do greater things for the institutions that we represent, and also the people that we're trying to bring up to a level where they can realize their full potential. So that's from me.
Yeah, that's awesome, Meri. Thank you. I couldn't agree more. And, you know, the research and a lot of the work that I've done in the past, it reflects that the higher you go up in positional leadership, the least of everybody, you get positive reinforcement. Okay, so think about your principals, your heads of department, potentially provincial education leaders. The higher you sit in a positional leadership rank, the less people tell you you're doing a good job. They bring you problems, they complain, they tell you that you can't do your job very well. You know, you don't get a great time. So when I work with teams, and I encourage you to all do the same, I did this with Pauline last year, and she approached one of her DPs. Go and validate them when you see them doing good things. Tell them they're doing a good job. Make them feel acknowledged for the work that they do. Nobody's job is easy, especially if you're trying to lead a school. So make sure that you let those people know what's working and go and support them and emotionally stand behind them, because it's complex leading a school. It's complex leading a province. It's complex leading a classroom too. So if you're a leader, make sure you do it with your teachers too. But I think that's a really important point, is we have to lift each other up and always be, you know, making people feel valued and validated in their contributions, because we don't do education for fun. We do it because we care. So anyway, what a lovely workshop we've had today. Thank you, ladies. I'm going to close with a thought that you don't need to answer now, but I will be coming to all of your schools. How exciting! And I just can't wait to see human beings face to face. It's going to be great. But have a think about, I do have some very definite activities, workshops that I need to run that are focused on specific areas. Outside of my time doing those things, I would love to just create some open, fluid space, some casual space to catch up and, I don't know, work on some stuff that you would like support with. If you think that you would like me to lead anything or just have a chat or whatever it happens to be, just let me know so that we prioritize some time together. Because I'd really love to do that. That would make me happy to do that with you. Okay. But you can just think about it. When we catch up next fortnight, I might ask you what you might want me to do, and then I can add it to my schedule for when I'm with your schools. And it might not be with you. You might want me to do something else with your teams, and that's okay too. Just let me know. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Good to see you all. And great workshop. Thank you, Maddie.
You're
Elizabeth.
welcome. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Mary, Anna, thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone.
Doreen, please say thank you to Mr. Yanage for driving you in. And
Doreen, thank you to Mr. Yanage.
Tell Mr. Yanage I emailed him today 2 options. Tell him Anna needs an answer for one of the 2 options. Did he hear?
Done.
Oh, you emailed. Okay, great. I'll go check.
Check your WhatsApp. Check your WhatsApp.
Okay, I'll check WhatsApp. Thanks, Peter. Appreciation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.